Caleb Williams and Bo Nix don't stack up with Jayden Daniels through just 2 games. And maybe it's too early, 8 quarters, to start really comparing and contrasting these rookies. But if you just put them side by side, Danny, and we'll go through some of the numbers here, one is not like the others. Whatever you think of Daniels and what he's done through 2 games, he has been decidedly better than those other 2 guys to this point.
Without question. And one of the things and I still feel this way, by the way, but one of the drums that I beat so consistently and so loudly through the offseason is I needed this organization, talking about Washington, to be way more like Chicago, to look at my quarterback and go, the entire future rests with him. Let's do everything we possibly can to support him. That's offensive line. That's weaponry. That's everything geared towards his success. Not maybe he can run a little bit more here and there, but I mean, long-term. And even with the disparity, I would take even Keenan Allen was out this past weekend, but even without him, I would take Chicago's skill guys 50 times out of 50 over what Washington has, especially on the outside. And even with that, what Jayden Daniels has done through a couple games, to me, makes it that much more impressive.
Yeah, I totally agree. Daniels has completed 75% of his passes, Williams 56%, and Nix 59%. Now, a lot of that has to do with how horizontal Kingsbury's called plays. In fact, this past weekend, as an example, I think it was 16, maybe it was 13 of their 29 throws were behind the line of scrimmage. Having said that, it could be misleading to say he's completing 75% just because of how easy the assignment is. It still tells you they have a better plan for this guy. It still tells you that Kingsbury is doing a better job getting the ball out of his hand, giving him easy targets and throws than Shane Waldron is doing for Caleb Williams or Sean Payton is doing for Bo Nix, because the job is completions. The job is to get the football to your playmakers in space. Washington went RPO heavy early in game 2. We didn't see that as much in game 1. That was the wide receiver screen stuff that you kept seeing. But maybe the Bears and the Broncos should mix that in a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, Bo Nix early on, especially in week number 1, I can't remember what the total was, but he threw, what it was like 50 times for 80 yards or something ridiculous. When I'm exaggerating, but they tried to open it up a little bit as they were trailing, and it went really poorly in week number 2, especially. But this is kind of what you should be doing at this stage, right? We're trying to build a house, and you don't build the top floor first, right? Eventually, I'd loved, the instant you recognize a certain set of coverage, hey, I've got something I can dial up where we'll throw it 80 yards down the field. Eventually, I'd love to be able to do that here and there. But at this stage, this is how it should be built. They're doing a good job.
Well, it's also just what works a lot of the time and what a lot of offenses do. Patrick Mahomes is notorious, seems negative, but is famous for this. He's one of the low average depth of target guys a lot of the time, including this year in the NFL. Didn't used to be the case with Tyreek Hill, but now with Kelsey not really beating people vertically, it's a lot of screens. It's a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage, and they do take a couple shots a game. And hopefully Washington gets to a point where they do as well. Amazingly, through 2 games, none of these 3 guys has thrown a touchdown pass. That's hard to fathom, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And I know you keep mentioning how few touchdowns there are around the league. They still get thrown all the time.
Yeah, it's still wild.
I mean, none of these guys has thrown one. J.J. McCarthy and Drake May are tied for the touchdown lead, having not played. Like, that's insane to me.
It is crazy. But, just by way of argument, not argument, but because it's zeros or zeros. Brian Robinson got tackled at the half-yard line on a catch and run. Sure. There are moments. It's still wild that no one has a touchdown pass yet.
I mean, I'm sure you could play that game for every quarterback.
Totally.
Add some touchdowns to their total.
Totally.
Daniels does not have an interception. That is a big deal. I'm fired up about that.
Mm-hmm.
They also haven't really asked him to throw into any small windows. Like, how many times have they threw contested passes? I remember the 50-50 ball to Ertz on the 21-yard completion he lobbed as he got hit. That's the only ball I remember even being kind of turnover worthy, but he hasn't really, they haven't worked the middle of the field much. So there hasn't been a whole lot into windows that was even interceptable. But again, that's a good thing, not a bad thing, largely with a young quarterback. Williams has the 2 picks. Nix has 4 interceptions already. I think the fact that Jayden Daniels doesn't have a single turnover through 2 games is perhaps the biggest deal and maybe the best thing you can say. Sack percentage, Nix is the only guy who's avoided sacks, very effectively at 4.9%. Caleb Williams is getting sacked 12% of the time. Jayden Daniels about 12% of the time as well, 11.7, narrowly better. But I'll say this, Caleb Williams in that game against the Texans on Sunday night, Jay Gruden was talking about this with us in his guest spot yesterday, he got absolutely annihilated by the
Mhm.
pass rush in a way that we haven't really seen Jayden have to deal with yet, or Nix for that matter. So I don't know that that's necessarily completely a Williams problem, but he holds the ball a lot. He runs around. He tries to do the hero thing where he makes plays. Like he had a sack for minus 19 already. Daniels does not do that. He's not running backwards and trying to create and making plays worse. He generally makes a decision and tucks it and runs and gets closer to the line of scrimmage and loses 3 or 4. Whereas Caleb Williams on these sacks, it's some big time losses too.
Yes. So there was one that very very evidence of kind of what you're talking about. There's a play where Jayden Daniels probably should be sacked for like minus 10, 11, 12 yards. He scrambles away. It was one of the best 3-yard losses I've ever seen. Right? It's a sack in the book. He got sacked. That's what happened. But it turned a drive killing, overwhelming negative. Oh my God, what are we doing? To, hey, we have a second down here. We have third down. We still have a chance on this possession. And that to me is kind of the special stuff that gets hidden in some of the numbers.
That is the special sauce for sure. I still on that play, such an easy play to throw out of bounds there and to just get a 0 yard.
Yeah, once you're out of trouble, totally right. Yeah.
But he still, to your point, instead of a minus 11, made it a minus 4. And just getting out of the sack was amazing. Intended air yards. So this is where you can see that Cliff Kingsbury's plan, which has been effective and working, is different than the other coaches. Caleb Williams is intending passes on average 7 yards downfield. Bo Nix, 7.5 yards downfield. Jayden Daniels, 4 yards downfield. Completed air yards, Williams is dead last in the NFL at his completions on average being 2.4 yards downfield.
Mm-hmm.
Jayden Daniels is second to worst in the NFL at this at 2.8. Bo Nix at 4.1 has pushed the ball down the field more, but with that has come what? The interceptions and mistakes. I think the plan is good. It's working. Now, if it's still this way in 10 weeks and you're frustrated, cool, no problem. I understand that. But what did we talk about all offseason? Yep. You don't want him holding the football. You don't want him taking shots in the pocket. You don't want him having to navigate the pocket a whole lot. The pressure to sack stuff. Get the ball out. Get it in space. So, yeah, it's a real low IAY. It's a real low CAY in terms of completed and intended air yards or whatever. So what? He's completing 75%, and you're moving the football. Washington has the highest percentage of drives where they've gotten a first down in the league. Almost 3/4 of their drives, like the highest percentage of not going 3 and out, essentially.
Which is huge.
And turning 1st and 10s into another 1st and 10. They've been best in the league. Now they have to finish and find a way. And by the way, we talked about all that stuff. That's all passing, where Daniels has been better than those other guys collectively, easily number 1 of the 3. That's not even to get into the rushing, where he's got 132 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Nix has 60 yards and a touchdown. Williams has 59 yards and a touchdown, but he's accounted for 2 first downs with his feet. Nix for 5, Daniels for 10. So he's been a better rusher, and he's done a better job throwing the football. Again, not going to get you a whole lot because Williams has been bad, and so has Nix. But I just think it's important every now and then to take inventory on. There's 3 rookie quarterbacks playing, and the one in Washington's been the best. And it even seems like, even though we're not in love with Kingsbury yet, with how he does things pre-snap, it seems like he is doing the best job helping his quarterback so far, too.
Well, it also brings the plan into clearer focus, where for Williams, it's, dude, be a gunslinger, go do you. Be Brett Favre 2.0. We don't care. Throw it. For Daniels, it's, if it's 50-50, we'd rather you not. That seems to be the coaching point. Now, whether we don't know that yet, 100%, but through a couple of weeks, that's what it seems to be, right? We'd rather you not risk it. We'd rather take care of the football. We'd rather ground and pound a little bit more. And that's borne out in the numbers.